everyone, this is Lanisha Young, and I'm recording my final presentation for our Intro to Inclusive Education class. We have a special visitor in this particular video. I'm sure as many of you know, I am a mom, and sometimes those duties have to come first. First, I do want to say this class definitely has changed my perceptions on children who have disabilities and diagnoses, and in particularly how I teach them. Prior to this course, I was working as a special education instructor for children who have special needs in our early intervention preschool, and I also worked in a reverse mainstream classroom. And for those who don't know, that means it's pretty much a 50-50 ratio of 50% children who are considered typically developing and 50% children who have IEPs. So I kind of had some background knowledge and some idea, but I didn't have a lot of experience in those areas. And I definitely am really happy to say that I have learned a lot during this course, and there were a few things that really stood out for me. The first things that really stood out for me were the articles about People First Language, especially the one by Kathy Snow. It really challenged me on how I thought about families and children who had special needs, and particularly the way we speak about them, because our words really do have power. And in society, sometimes we forget that our values are reflected in the kinds of words that we use. Like, there's lots of words for money, right? But how many words do you know that really describe love? So it's the same thing to me when you describe people who may not be who you expect, children who have a disability or a diagnosis, and really how we speak about them shows how we value them. And I really think that People First Language really wants to restore the value of personhood and to put disabilities and diagnoses in their right perspective. And I definitely see that happening for me personally when I got the chance to look at those documentaries from Misunderstood Minds, where you can see not just a child's disability and how their family struggle handling it, but I really liked when they finally went in to get tested that I believe it's Dr. Levine. I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right, but he really focused on teaching the children about their strengths and using their strengths to help them in areas where they may be having difficulty or need more support. I really liked the I Am Tyler and the Wretches and Jabberers. Those documentaries really encouraged me to change my perspective as an educator, to look at children and adults with disabilities as people first, and to value that their opinions, their personalities, their strengths, and to not define them by their diagnosis, but to see it as just a part of them. And I did definitely see that reflected in my personal experience with my partner family. I'd worked with a family who has a child who has Down syndrome, and I've worked with them before at the previous site as a special instructor. So it was nice to reconnect with them. But one thing that stood out to me the most was how they spoke about their son. They never really mentioned his diagnosis until I asked them about it. A lot of what they talked about referenced his personality, like he's lazy, or he's funny, or he doesn't like to sleep. And his mom really believes in that least dangerous assumption that he can do anything if you give him time and give him support and to motivate him, whether he wanted to or not. And lastly, I did want to touch on sexual identity and gender roles. And I have had some experience with that, but I was glad to read a little bit more about how to handle it, especially because I work with children now from birth to 5. I teach the younger preschool classroom, so 3 and 4 year olds. And we do have children and adults in our center who some work through gender neutrality. Their families believe in that. Some adults are gay and dress more what you would consider, I guess, male, and explaining that to children. I've been asked some awkward questions sometimes, so I did appreciate the resources to be able to support early learners in a way that they can understand. Um, and Oh, and yes, and going back to my partner and family, I do plan on keeping contact with them. I'm really excited that this little person here really made a new friend, and we got to be a part of their family, and it was really nice to be included. Um, yeah, so overall, I definitely feel that I learned a lot. I was challenged about my own point of view and what I focused on as a teacher. I definitely focused a lot more on in the past in their diagnosis, but now I make a real big effort to acknowledge my children's personalities and to value them and value their strengths just as much as I try to support their weaknesses. So I really appreciate that. And I definitely want to learn more on how to support them in that. So thank you for a great semester, and I hope everyone continues on their journey and it works out great for everybody. So have a great holiday. Good night. Say good night, baby.
Good night.
Good night.